In the fog-shrouded halls of Blackthorn Manor, a priceless golden medallion vanishes, and its owner, Sir Reginald Harwood, disappears into the night. Blood stains the orchard. Clues point to betrayal, and secrets fester among a cast of elegant suspects. Enter Hercule Poirot, whose little gray cells unravel a web of lies, debts, and deception. Was it greed, love, or a darker motive in this classic Agatha Christie mystery? Every clue counts, and the truth will shock you. Dare to uncover the secrets of the stolen medallion? Chapter 1. The Gathering at Blackthorn Manor in the waning days of October 1927. The mist clung to the rolling hills of Shropshire like a mourner's veil, shrouding Blackthorn Manor in an air of quiet foreboding. The estate, a sprawling Georgian edifice of ivy-clad stone, stood resolute against the damp autumn chill, its windows glowing with the promise of warmth and civility. Captain Arthur Hastings, ever the optimist, found himself charmed by the scene as he stepped from the motor car, his boots crunching on the gravel drive. Beside him, Hercule Poirot, immaculate in his polished shoes and neatly pressed overcoat, adjusted his mustache with a fastidious flick of his gloved fingers. Mon ami, Poirot remarked, his voice crisp as the evening air. This Blackthorn Manor is most picturesque, but I sense already the undercurrent of unease. The human heart, it hides many secrets behind such elegant facades. Hastings, accustomed to his friend's penchant for dramatic observation, chuckled. Really, Poirot, we've only just arrived. Surely even you can't detect intrigue before we've had a cup of tea. They had been invited to the manor by Sir Reginald Harwood, a retired diplomat with a reputation for hosting eclectic gatherings. The occasion was a private auction of rare artifacts, the centerpiece being the Harwood medallion, a golden disc inscribed with cryptic runes, said to have been unearthed in Mesopotamia, and rumored to carry a curse. Sir Reginald, a man of scholarly zeal, had gathered a select group to bid on this treasure, and Poirot, ever intrigued by the peculiar, had accepted the invitation with alacrity. Hastings, as ever, followed along, eager for a weekend of good company and fine claret. The great hall of Blackthorn Manor was a study in opulence, polished oak paneling, a chandelier dripping with crystal, and a roaring fire casting shadows that danced across the portraits of Harwood ancestors. The guests, an assortment of wealth and eccentricity, mingled with the practiced ease of those accustomed to high society. Sir Reginald himself, a tall man with a hawkish nose and a shock of white hair, greeted Poirot and Hastings warmly. Mr. Poirot, Captain Hastings, a delight, he boomed, his voice echoing off the vaulted ceiling. You honor us. The medallion, you see, is the talk of the antiquarian world. Worth a fortune, they say, though some whisper it brings misfortune. Poirot's green eyes gleamed. Fortune or misfortune, Sir Reginald, it is the human reaction to such objects that interests Hercule Poirot. The other guests were introduced. In turn, Lady Evelyn Harwood, Sir Reginald's younger sister, was a striking woman in her 40s, her auburn hair pinned elegantly, though her sharp blue eyes betrayed a restless energy. Dr. Lionel Baxter, a portly archaeologist with a penchant for brandy, had excavated the medallion himself and spoke of it with proprietary pride. Mrs. Clara Wentworth, a wealthy widow with a penchant for sapphire jewelry, eyed the room with cool detachment, her gloved fingers clutching a glass of sherry. Mr. Julian Crane, a sleek young art dealer with an easy smile, seemed overly attentive to Lady Evelyn, while Miss Beatrice Langley, a nervous young heiress, fidgeted with her pearls, her eyes darting to every shadow. Finally, there was Colonel Marcus Rutherford, a retired military man with a gruff manner and a limp, who seemed ill at ease among the glittering company. Dinner was a sumptuous affair. Though the conversation was strained, Sir Reginald spoke at length about the medallion's history, its supposed connection to an ancient priestly cult, and the cryptic inscription that had baffled scholars. Dr. Baxter, flushed with wine, argued that the curse was nonsense, while Miss Langley shivered and murmured about ill omens. Lady Evelyn, seated beside Poirot, remarked dryly, "Superstition is a luxury for those with too much time, don't you think, Mr. Poirot?" Poirot smiled enigmatically. "Time, Lady Evelyn, reveals all truths, and I find that superstition often cloaks a more tangible motive. Hastings, seated across from Mrs. Wentworth, noted her peculiar silence. She ate little, her eyes fixed on Sir Reginald with an intensity that bordered on hostility. Colonel Rutherford, meanwhile, seemed preoccupied, his fork tapping rhythmically against his plate as if marking time as the clock struck 10. Sir Reginald rose, clapping his hands for attention. "My friends," he announced, "the hour approaches. At midnight, the medallion will be unveiled in the library for private viewing before tomorrow's auction. I trust you will all join me." The guests murmured their assent, though Hastings caught a flicker of unease pass between them. Poirot, ever observant, leaned toward him and whispered, "Mark this moment, Hastings. The stage is set, and the players, they are not all what they seem." The evening progressed with card games and brandy, but a tension hung in the air, as if the manor itself held its breath. Hastings, sipping his drink, wondered if Poirot's instincts were, as usual, uncannily prescient. Little did he know that, within hours, Blackthorn Manor would be plunged into a mystery that would test even Poirot's formidable intellect. Chapter 2. The medallion vanished. Clock in Blackthorn Manor's library chimed midnight, its somber toll resonating through the oak-paneled room. The guests, gathered in a semicircle round a polished mahogany table, watched as Sir Reginald Harwood, with the flourish of a showman, lifted a velvet cloth to reveal the Harwood medallion. The golden disc, no larger than a saucer, gleamed under the chandelier's light, its intricate runes casting faint shadows. Captain Hastings, standing near the back, felt a prickle of awe at the artifact's ancient beauty, though he noted the varied reactions among the group. Dr. Baxter's scholarly reverence, Mrs. Wentworth's tight-lipped scrutiny, and Miss Langley's nervous glance toward the darkened windows. "Magnificent, is it not?" Sir Reginald declared, his voice rich with pride. "Tomorrow it shall find a new home, but tonight we admire its mystery." Hercule Poirot, positioned near a bookshelf, his small frame almost swallowed by the room's grandeur, tilted his head, his eyes fixed not on the medallion, but on the faces around it. Hastings, accustomed to his friend's methods, knew Poirot was cataloguing every twitch, every glance, as if the guests themselves were artifacts to be deciphered. The viewing lasted mere minutes. Sir Reginald replaced the cloth, locked the medallion in a small, iron-bound case, and entrusted the key to his valet, Mr. Simmons, a stooped man with a deferential air. "To the safe in my study," Sir Reginald instructed, and Simmons nodded. Slipping from the room, the guests dispersed, some to the drawing-room for a final brandy, others to their bedrooms. Poirot, however, lingered, his fingers tracing the spine of a leather-bound volume. "Hastings," he murmured, "did you observe the haste with which Mrs. Wentworth excused herself? And the way Colonel Rutherford's hand trembled as he lit his cigar? There is something in the air tonight, mon ami." Hastings, ever practical, shrugged. "Nerves, perhaps. That medallion's cursed nonsense has everyone on edge." Poirot's lips curved into a faint smile. "Nonsense, you say? Yet the human mind, it clings to such stories when it seeks to hide the truth." Their conversation was cut short by a piercing scream that echoed through the manor's corridors. Hastings' heart leapt, and even Poirot's composed demeanor faltered for a moment. The sound came from the direction of Sir Reginald's study. The two men hurried toward it, joined by a flurry of footsteps as the other guests emerged from their rooms. Dressing gowns hastily donned, they found Lady Evelyn in the study doorway, her face ashen, her hand clutching the frame for support. "Reginald," she gasped, he's gone." The study was in disarray. Papers littered the floor, a chair was overturned, and the safe tucked behind a portrait of a stern Harwood ancestor stood open, its door ajar. The iron-bound case was there, but the medallion was gone. Sir Reginald was nowhere to be seen. Simmons, the valet, hovered nearby, wringing his hands, his face a mask of distress. "He sent me to fetch his pipe," Simmons stammered. "I was gone but a moment, 10 minutes at most. When I returned, the room was like this." And Sir Reginald, Poirot stepped forward, his movements precise, his eyes sweeping the scene. 10 minutes, you say, Monsieur Simmons, and the key to the case, where is it?" Simmons patted his waistcoat pocket, his expression shifting to panic. It's gone, sir. I swear I had it when I left." Hastings, peering into the safe, noted the case's lock was undamaged, suggesting the thief had used the key. The window was latched from the inside, and the study's only other exit led to the corridor, where guests were now milling about, their faces a mixture of shock and suspicion. Dr. Baxter, his voice thick with indignation, declared, "This is outrageous. The medallion, stolen under our noses. And where is Sir Reginald? Has he been taken? Or—" He trailed off, unwilling to voice the darker possibility. Mrs. Wentworth, her sapphire necklace glinting in the lamplight, spoke coldly. "We must search the grounds. He may be injured, or worse." Colonel Rutherford, limping forward, barked, "Nonsense. This is a planned job. Someone here knew the medallion's value and saw their chance." Miss Langley, trembling, clutched Lady Evelyn's arm. "The curse," she whispered. "It's the curse." Poirot raised a hand for silence, his presence commanding despite his diminutive stature. "Mesdames et messieurs, calm yourselves. The facts, they are our guide, not superstition. Monsieur Simmons, you will recount the exact time you left and returned. The rest of you, I will speak with each in turn. Captain Hastings, assist me in examining this room." As the guests retreated, muttering among themselves, Poirot knelt by the overturned chair, his gloved fingers brushing the carpet. "Regardez, Hastings," he said, pointing to a faint smudge of mud near the desk, "fresh, and not from the boots of Sir Reginald, who was fastidious non." And here he gestured to a single, crumpled cigarette paper, half hidden beneath a fallen book. Curious, for Sir Reginald did not smoke. Hastings frowned. "A thief, then? But why leave the case and take the medallion? And where is Sir Reginald?" Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Questions, mon ami, that will lead us to the truth. But first, we must establish the alibis. The hour is critical between 11:50 p.m., when the medallion was locked away, and 12:10 a.m., when the scream was heard. Someone, or perhaps more than one, knows more than they say." As the Manor's clocks ticked on, the mystery deepened, and Hastings felt the weight of Poirot's words. Blackthorn Manor, once a haven of civility, was now a stage for deception, and the curtain had only just risen. Chapter 3. The arrival of Poirot's method library of Blackthorn Manor, with its heavy drapes and shelves of leather-bound tomes, became the impromptu headquarters for Hercule Poirot's investigation. The hour was nearing 1 in the morning, yet the air thrummed with tension as the guests, summoned by Poirot's quiet authority, gathered once more. Captain Hastings stood by the fireplace, his eyes darting between the anxious faces and his friend, who paced slowly before the group, his hands clasped behind his back, his mustache twitching with concentration. "Mesdames et messieurs," Poirot began, his voice a calm anchor in the storm of unease, "we are faced with two mysteries, the disappearance of Sir Reginald Harwood and the theft of the Harwood medallion. These events, they are not separate, I think, but threads of the same tapestry. To unravel it, we must proceed with order and method." Lady Evelyn, her composure fraying, snapped, "Order? My brother is missing, Mr. Poirot, possibly dead. The police must be called at once." Poirot raised a hand, his green eyes sharp. "The police, they will come, Lady Evelyn, but the fog is thick tonight, and the nearest station is miles away. Until they arrive, it is Hercule Poirot who will ensure no detail is overlooked. Now, I ask for your patience and your truth." Hastings, watching the group, noted their varied reactions. Dr. Baxter's flushed indignation, Mrs. Wentworth's icy reserve, Colonel Rutherford's clenched jaw, Miss Langley's trembling hands, and Mr. Crane's too casual posture, as if he wished to appear untouched by the chaos. Simmons, the valet, hovered at the edge, his face pale and drawn. Poirot began with Simmons, whose account was halting, but precise. "I left Sir Reginald in the study at 11:50 p.m. to fetch his pipe from the smoking room, as he requested. I returned at 12:10 a.m., and the room was as you saw. Sir Reginald gone, the safe open, the medallion missing. The key to the case was in my pocket when I left, but it was gone when I returned." "And you saw no one in the corridor?" Poirot pressed. "No one, sir," Simmons replied, though his eyes flickered briefly toward the floor. Poirot turned to the guests, his gaze methodical, almost surgical. "Each of you, Tell me where you were between 11:50 p.m. and 12:10 a.m., the critical 20 minutes. Lady Evelyn spoke first, her voice steady despite her earlier distress. I was in my room, preparing for bed. My maid Ellen can confirm I retired just after the Medallion viewing. Dr. Baxter, mopping his brow with a handkerchief, said, I was in the drawing room, having a nightcap with Colonel Rutherford. We were discussing the Medallion's provenance until the scream. Colonel Rutherford nodded gruffly. Aye, that's right. Baxter was prattling on about Babylonian priests. I stayed until Lady Evelyn's cry. Mrs. Wentworth's lips thinned. I was in the conservatory, alone, admiring the orchids. I find late nights soothing. Mr. Julian Crane flashed a charming smile. I was in the billiard room, practicing. Shots, no one was with me. I'm afraid, but I heard the scream and came running. Miss Beatrice Langley, her voice barely above a whisper, said, I was in my room reading. I didn't want to be near the Medallion any longer. It felt wrong. Poirot's eyes narrowed slightly at each response, as if weighing the words. Against an invisible scale, Hastings, jotting notes in his pocketbook, whispered, Everyone claims to be alone or with someone who can't fully corroborate. Convenient, isn't it? Too convenient, mon ami, Poirot murmured. The truth. It hides in the spaces between their words. Poirot then directed Hastings to assist in a second examination of the study, now cordoned off by the butler. Under Poirot's orders, the room remained as they had found it, the overturned chair, the scattered papers, the open safe. Poirot knelt again by the smudge of mud, his fingers hovering over it. This mud, Hastings, it is not from the gravel drive. It is clay-like, perhaps from the gardens near the conservatory. Curious, non. He moved to the desk, where the cigarette paper still lay beneath the fallen book. This paper, he said, holding it to the light. It is not of the common sort. See the faint watermark, a French brand, I believe. Who among our guests smokes such cigarettes? Hastings frowned. I don't recall anyone smoking tonight, except Rutherford with his cigar. Precisement. Poirot said, slipping the paper into his pocket. And now, the safe, it was opened without force, suggesting the thief had access to Sir Reginald's key or a duplicate. Yet Simmons claims the case's key was stolen from him, to keys, to thefts, and yet no sign of Sir Reginald. As they returned to the library, a groundskeeper burst in, his face flushed from running. Mr. Poirot, sir, we've found something in the orchard blood, on the grass, and a torn bit of cloth. Looks like Sir Reginald's jacket. The guests gasped, and Miss Langley let out a faint cry. Poirot's expression remained impassive, but his eyes gleamed with intensity. Show me, he said simply. The orchard, shrouded in fog, was a ghostly expanse of gnarled apple trees, near a low stone wall. A patch of grass was stained dark, and a scrap of tweed, unmistakably from Sir Reginald's jacket, lay caught on. A branch, Poirot examined it closely, noting a single, long, auburn hair entangled in the fabric. Mon Dieu, he murmured. The plot, it thickens. Blood, a torn jacket, and now a hair. But where is the body, and where is the medallion? Hastings felt a chill that had little to do with the night air. Poirot, do you think Sir Reginald is dead? Poirot's gaze was distant, his mind already turning. Dead or alive? Hastings, Sir Reginald is the key, but it is the living who will reveal him to us. Tomorrow, we shall probe deeper. The little gray cells, they are only beginning to work. As they returned to the manor, the guests' alibis hung in Hastings' mind like pieces of a puzzle, each one tantalizingly incomplete. Poirot, silent now, seemed to see the pattern already. But to Hastings, the mystery of Blackthorn Manor was only growing darker. Chapter 4. The interrogations begin. Morning sun struggled through the fog enveloping Blackthorn Manor, casting a pallid light over the breakfast room where the guests sat in uneasy silence. The events of the previous night, the missing medallion, Sir Reginald's disappearance. The blood in the orchard had drained the gathering of its former civility. Captain Hastings, nursing a cup of tea, observed the strained faces, Lady Evelyn's tight-lipped composure, Dr. Baxter's fidgeting, Mrs. Wentworth's cold detachment. Only Hercule Poirot, seated at the head of the table, seemed unruffled, his breakfast plate arranged with geometric precision, his eyes bright with purpose. Ms. Amos, Poirot announced, dabbing his lips with a napkin. The police will arrive soon, but until then, we must proceed with clarity. I have requested each of you to meet me in the library for a private conversation. The truth, it is like a delicate flower, it must be coaxed into bloom. Hastings, ever Poirot's shadow, followed him to the library where a fire crackled. Against the morning chill, Poirot settled into a high-backed chair, his notebook open, his pencil poised. Hastings, you will observe and note the manner of each guest. The words, they are important, but the eyes, the hands, the hesitations, these speak louder. First came Lady Evelyn, her auburn hair pinned tightly, her posture rigid. Mr. Poirot, she began, this is intolerable. My brother is missing, possibly murdered, and you treat us like suspects. Poirot's smile was gentle but unyielding. Madam, in a crime, all are suspects until they are not. Tell me, your brother, did he have enemies? Someone who coveted the medallion, perhaps? Lady Evelyn's eyes flickered. Reginald was opinionated. His work in diplomacy ruffled feathers, but nothing to warrant this. As for the medallion, it was his pride, not a motive for murder. And last night, Poirot pressed, you were in your room at 11:50 p.m. Your maid confirms this, oui? Yet you were quick to reach the study after the scream. I'm a light sleeper, she said sharply. I heard the commotion and came at once. Poirot nodded, dismissing her with a polite bow, but Hastings caught the glint in his eye. She's hiding something, he whispered. Perhaps, Poirot replied. But what and why? Dr. Lionel Baxter entered next, his jowls quivering with indignation. I've no patience for this, Poirot. I excavated that medallion myself. If anyone had motive to steal it, it wasn't me. I'd have bought it fairly. At auction, Poirot's voice was smooth. Your passion for the artifact is noted, Doctor. But tell me, during your nightcap with Colonel Rutherford, did you leave the drawing room at any point? Baxter hesitated, his fingers drumming on the armrest. I stepped out briefly to the cloakroom, around midnight. Only for a moment. A moment, Poirot echoed, is sometimes enough. And the cigarette paper in the study, do you smoke, Doctor? Baxter flushed, occasionally, but not last night, and certainly not French cigarettes. Mrs. Wentworth followed, her sapphire necklace catching the firelight. Her answers were clipped, precise. I was in the conservatory, as I said. I saw no one, heard nothing until the scream. Sir Reginald and I were not close, but I had no reason to wish him harm. Yet your eyes, madam, Poirot said softly. They followed him closely at dinner. Was there a matter between you? Her lips tightened. A business disagreement, long resolved. Nothing more. Colonel Rutherford, limping heavily, was brusque. I was with Baxter, as he said. Didn't leave the drawing room until the scream. This is a waste of time, Poirot. The thief's probably halfway to London by now. Poirot's gaze lingered on the Colonel's cane. Your injury, Colonel, it is recent, non? The mud in the study suggests someone ventured outside. The orchard, perhaps? Rutherford's jaw clenched, old war wound, axe up in the damp. I wasn't in any orchard. Mr. Julian Crane, the art dealer, sauntered in with a disarming smile. I'm a simple man, Mr. Poirot. I was in the billiard room, practicing shots. No alibi, I'm afraid. But I've no interest in ancient trinkets. Too much hassle to sell. Poirot tilted his head. And yet, Monsieur Crane, you were most attentive to Lady Evelyn. A business interest, or something, personal. Crane's smile faltered. A gentleman admires beauty. That's all. Finally, Miss Beatrice Langley entered, her hands twisting her handkerchief. I was in my room, she whispered. I swear it, the medallion, it frightened me. I felt it watching me. Watching. Poirot leaned forward. An interesting choice of words, mademoiselle. And Sir Reginald, did he frighten you also? Her eyes widened. No, he was kind, but distant. I only wanted to leave this place. As she left, Poirot closed his notebook with a snap. Hastings. Each tells a story, but none tells the whole. The alibis, they are like a house of cards, plausible, yet fragile, and the auburn hair in the orchard, Lady Evelyn's, perhaps. But she is not the only one with such hair. We must learn more. Hastings frowned. What about Simmons? His story about the key seems shaky. Precisement, Poirot said. "The valet, he is nervous. But is it guilt or fear, and the blood in the orchard too little for a fatal wound? Yet enough to suggest struggle. We must search the manor." Again, Hastings, and the grounds, the little gray cells, they whisper that the answer lies close. As they stepped into the corridor, a maid approached, her face pale. "Mr. Poirot, sir, we've found something in the conservatory, a glove. Leather, with a blood stain. It was hidden under a fern." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Bon, the pieces, they begin to fall. Lead us to it, mademoiselle." Hastings felt the familiar thrill of the chase, tempered by unease. The glove, the hair, the mud, each clue pointed to a truth just out of reach, and Poirot's calm certainty only deepened the mystery of Blackthorn Manor. Chapter 5. The Red Herrings. Emerjeth Conservatory of Blackthorn Manor, with its glass walls and riot of exotic plants, felt like a tropical enclave amidst the Shropshire fog. The air was heavy with the scent of orchids and damp earth as Hercule. Poirot, followed closely by Captain Hastings, examined the leather glove the maid had discovered. It lay beneath a fern, half concealed by a frond, its dark surface marred by a small, rust-colored stain. Poirot lifted it with a handkerchief, his eyes narrowing as he turned it over in the morning light. "Regard us, Hastings," he said, pointing to a monogram stitched into the cuff. "Are a clue, but one that shouts to loudly non-initials, so conveniently placed, suggest a hand less clever than it believes itself to be." Hastings frowned. "M.R. Colonel Marcus Rutherford. Surely, he's been cagey. And that limp of his, could he have been in the orchard?" Poirot's lips twitched. "The Colonel, he is a possibility, but the glove, it is too obvious. A red herring, perhaps, to lead us astray. We must verify its owner, but first, let us consider the blood. It is dry, yet not old, consistent with last night's events." The maid, hovering nervously, confirmed she had found the glove while tending the plants, and no one had been in the conservatory that morning. Poirot dismissed her with a nod, then turned to Hastings. "Mrs. Wentworth claimed she was here, admiring the orchids, during the critical time. Yet she saw nothing, heard nothing. The conservatory, it is close to the study. We must examine this further." Back in the library, the guests were growing restless, their whispered conversations halting as Poirot entered. The police had yet to arrive, delayed by the fog, leaving Poirot's authority unchallenged. He placed the glove on the table, its monogram visible to all, and observed the reactions. Colonel Rutherford's face reddened, his hand tightening on his cane. "That's mine," he barked, "but I haven't worn it since yesterday afternoon. Someone must have taken it from my room." Lady Evelyn raised an eyebrow. "Convenient, Colonel. And where were you when my brother vanished?" "I told you," Rutherford snapped. "In the drawing room with Baxter. This is a frame-up, Doctor." Baxter, sweating profusely, nodded vigorously. "He was with me, I swear it. Besides, why would he steal the medallion? He's no collector." Poirot's gaze shifted to Mrs. Wentworth, who sat impassive, her sapphire necklace glinting. "Madam Wentworth, you were in the conservatory. Did you see this glove? Or perhaps notice someone near the study?" Her eyes met his, unyielding. "As I said, I was alone. I noticed nothing unusual." Hastings, scribbling in his notebook, whispered, "She's to calm Poirot. And that glove, Rutherford's indignation seems genuine. But it could be an act." Poirot nodded slightly. "The glove, it is a distraction. But from what? We must return to the orchard. The blood, the hair, the torn cloth, they tell a story. But not the one our thief wishes us to believe." The orchard was quieter now, the fog lifting to reveal the gnarled trees in stark relief. Poirot knelt by the blood-stained grass, his fingers brushing the earth. "This blood, Hastings, it is not enough for a mortal wound, but enough to suggest violence. And the auburn hair, Lady Evelyn's, perhaps, but Miss Langley's hair is a similar shade, We must compare." He examined the stone wall, noting a faint scrape mark, as if something heavy had been dragged over it. "Curious," he murmured. "This mark is fresh, and the cloth from Sir Reginald's jacket caught on a branch, yet not torn violently. It suggests a staging, perhaps." As they returned to the manor, a new discovery awaited. The butler, Mr. Grayson, approached, holding a small silver cigarette case. engraved with the initials J.C. found it in the shrubbery near the orchard. "Sir," he said. It was half buried, as if someone dropped it in haste. Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Monsieur Julian Crane, I presume?" Another clue, so conveniently placed. The red herrings, they multiply. Confronted with the cigarette case, Crane's easy smile faltered. "Yes, it's mine. But I lost it days ago. I don't smoke French cigarettes, Mr. Poirot, English ones." Always, Poirot held up the cigarette paper from the study, its watermark glinting. And yet, this paper, it is French. Someone here is not what they seem. The guests exchanged uneasy glances, suspicion thickening the air. Miss Langley, pale and trembling, murmured, "It's the curse. The medallion brings death." Poirot's voice cut through her fear. "Mademoiselle, it is not a curse that steals and spills blood, but a human hand, and that hand, it will not escape Hercule Poirot." As the morning wore on, Hastings felt the web of clues tightening, yet each seemed to point in conflicting directions. The glove, the cigarette case, the auburn hair all screamed of guilt, but whose? Poirot, calm and methodical, seemed to see through the chaos, his little gray cells weaving a pattern Hastings could only guess at. The mystery of Blackthorn Manor was deepening, and the truth remained tantalizingly out of reach. Chapter 6. A clue in detail. Afternoon light filtered weakly through the fog, casting a muted glow over Blackthorn Manor's library, where Hercule Poirot sat with Captain Hastings. A small collection of clues spread before them on the mahogany table: the blood-stained glove, the silver cigarette case, the auburn hair, and the crumpled French cigarette paper. Each item, meticulously arranged by Poirot, seemed to whisper secrets, but their language was elusive. Hastings, his brow furrowed, watched as Poirot's gloved fingers hovered over the cigarette paper, his green eyes alight with concentration. "Hastings," Poirot said, his voice low and precise, "the little gray cells, they are stirred by this paper. It is not merely a clue, but a contradiction. Monsieur Crane claims he smokes only English cigarettes, yet this French paper was found in the study, and the watermark, see how it catches the light. It is rare, a brand not easily obtained in England." Hastings leaned closer, squinting at the faint design. "You think someone planted it, like the glove and cigarette case?" "Precisement," Poirot replied. "But to plant a clue is to know the habits of others. Our culprit is observant, perhaps too observant. We must now consider the smallest details, for it is in them that the truth hides." Poirot's attention shifted to the auburn hair, which he held up to the window. "This hair, it is not merely auburn, but of a particular length and texture. Lady Evelyn's hair is tightly pinned, always orderly. Miss Langley's, however, is looser, more prone to stray. We must compare, but discreetly." Their musings were interrupted by the arrival of Inspector Japp, who had finally navigated the fog-bound roads to reach the manor. His familiar, weathered face was grim as he shook Poirot's hand. "A fine mess, Poirot. A missing baronet, a stolen artifact, and blood in the orchard. What have you got for me?" Poirot gestured to the clues. "A puzzle, mon ami Japp, with pieces that do not yet fit. But I have begun to question the guests, and already inconsistencies emerge." Japp snorted, eyeing the glove. "Colonel Rutherford's, eh? Looks like an open and shut case to me. He's got a temper, and that limp doesn't stop him moving quick when he wants." Poirot's smile was patient. "The glove, it is too obvious, Inspector. A man of Rutherford's experience does not leave such a calling card. No, we must look deeper into the minds of those who weave this deception." Leaving Japp to organize a search of the grounds, Poirot and Hastings returned to the study, where the scene remained untouched under Poirot's orders. Poirot's eyes swept the room, settling on the desk's inkstand, where a single sheet of blotting paper lay askew. He lifted it, holding it to the light, and a faint, reversed script became visible, a fragment of a letter, written in Sir Reginald's hand. "Hastings, regardes," Poirot exclaimed. "The blotting paper, it has captured the ghost of a message. It reads, 'Must be told. Debt, ruin.' The words are incomplete, but they suggest a motive, non?" Sir Reginald was troubled, perhaps by a financial secret. Hastings' eyes widened. "Debt, ruin? Could someone have used that against him? Blackmail, perhaps?" Poirot nodded. or leverage to provoke a theft or worse. We must learn who knew of Sir Reginald's troubles, but there is more. He pointed to the floor near the safe, where a tiny speck of wax, barely visible, gleamed in the light. Candle wax, Hastings. Yet no candle was lit in this room last night. The lamps were electric. This wax, it comes from elsewhere. They followed the clue's implication to the corridor, where a narrow staircase led to the servants' quarters. There, in a small alcove, they found a melted candle stub, its wax matching the speck in the study. Someone moved through the manor in darkness, Poirot murmured, avoiding the electric lights. But why? Their investigation was cut short by a commotion downstairs. Miss Langley, her face pale as chalk, had fainted in the drawing room, after glimpsing a shadow in the garden. Revived by Lady Evelyn's smelling salts, she stammered, "I saw him, Sir Reginald, in the fog, near the orchard. He looked ghostly." The guests murmured, and Dr. Baxter scoffed, "Nonsense, girl, you're seeing things. The curse has got to her head." Poirot, however, was attentive. Mademoiselle described the shadow. Every detail, s'il vous plaît. It was tall. She whispered, like Sir Reginald in his tweed jacket. But his face, it was wrong, blurred. Like a spectre. Poirot exchanged a glance with Hastings. A spectre. Or a man who wishes to be seen as one. We must investigate the orchard again. Hastings, the shadow, the wax, the blotting paper, these are not accidents. As they prepared to venture out, Poirot paused, his gaze falling on a small brass clock on the mantel. The time. Hastings, it is critical. The clock in the study was stopped at 12:02 a.m. Yet Simmons claims he returned at 12:10, a discrepancy of 8 minutes. Someone tampered with that clock, perhaps to confuse the timeline. Hastings felt a familiar thrill as Poirot's mind pieced together the fragments. The clues were mounting: wax, hair, a stopped clock, a cryptic note, but each seemed to pull the mystery in a different direction. Yet Poirot's calm certainty reassured him that the truth, however elusive, was within reach. Chapter 7. More lies. Sir Faceth fog had lifted by late afternoon, revealing Blackthorn Manor's gardens in stark clarity. But the atmosphere within remained thick with suspicion. Hercule Poirot, accompanied by Captain Hastings and Inspector Japp, returned to the orchard, where Miss Langley's tale of a ghostly figure had stirred fresh unease. The blood-stained grass and torn tweed scrap were as they had left them. But Poirot's attention was drawn to the stone wall, where the faint scrape marks suggested something or someone had been moved. "Regardez, Hastings," Poirot said, pointing to a patch of disturbed earth near the wall. "The soil, it is loose, as if recently trodden. Yet the groundskeeper swears no one worked here yesterday. Someone was in this orchard, and not for a leisurely stroll." Japp, puffing on, his pipe, grunted, "Likely our thief, covering their tracks. But where's Sir Reginald? No body. No murder yet." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Yet, Inspector, the absence of a body is as telling as its presence. We must consider all possibilities: abduction, flight, or deception most clever." Back in the library, Poirot gathered the guests once more, his presence commanding despite the growing tension. The discovery of the blotting paper's message, must be told, debt, ruin, had sparked his curiosity, and he resolved to probe deeper into Sir Reginald's affairs. "Mesdames et messieurs," he began, "it appears Sir Reginald was troubled by matters of finance. Who among you knew of his debts?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Lady Evelyn's face tightened, her fingers clenching her shawl. "My brother was a private man," she said. "If he had debts, he did not share them with me." Mrs. Wentworth's voice was icy. "I told you, Mr. Poirot, our business disagreement was resolved. I knew nothing of his financial state." Dr. Baxter, however, shifted uncomfortably. "Well, I heard rumors, you know, in antiquarian circles. Sir Reginald was funding expeditions, costly ones. Perhaps he overextended himself." Poirot's gaze sharpened. "Rumors, doctor, or knowledge? You worked closely with him on the Medallion's excavation. Did he confide in you?" Baxter flushed. "He mentioned expenses, yes, but nothing specific. I'm an archaeologist, not a banker." Colonel Rutherford, his temper fraying, snapped, "This is nonsense. Debts don't make a man vanish. Someone Here took the medallion and did away with him, mark my words. Miss Langley, her eyes red from crying, whispered, "It's the curse. He shouldn't have kept that medallion. It's brought ruin to us all." Julian Crane, lounging against a bookshelf, chuckled. "Come now, Miss Langley, let's not blame ancient trinkets. Sir Reginald probably crossed the wrong person, someone in this room, perhaps." The accusation sparked a flurry of protests, voices overlapping until Poirot raised a hand for silence. "Enough. The truth, it is buried beneath your secrets. Monsieur Crane, you speak of crossing others, yet your cigarette case was found near the orchard. Care to explain?" Crane's smile didn't waver. "As I said, I lost it days ago. Someone's trying to pin this on me, Mr. Poirot." Hastings, scribbling notes, leaned toward Poirot. "They're all pointing fingers, but no one's giving straight answers, and that blotting paper, debt and ruin. Could someone have been blackmailing Sir Reginald?" Poirot nodded slightly. "Possible, mon ami. But consider the stopped clock in the study at 12:02 a.m. Simmons claims he returned at 12:10. The clock was tampered with, perhaps to create a false timeline. We must question the valet again." Simmons, summoned to the library, was a picture of nervous agitation, his hands twisting together. "I swear, sir, I told you everything. I left at 11:50, returned at 12:10, and the key was gone from my pocket." Poirot's voice was soft, almost soothing. "And yet, Monsieur Simmons, the clock suggests the crime occurred earlier. Did you notice anything unusual in the smoking room when you fetched the pipe?" Simmons hesitated, his eyes darting to Lady Evelyn, who stood rigid nearby. I thought I heard footsteps in the corridor, but when I looked, no one was there." "Footsteps?" Poirot repeated, his tone thoughtful. "And the pipe, where is it now?" Simmons paled. I left it in the smoking room. I was so shaken by the study's state, I forgot to bring it." Poirot dismissed him with a nod, then turned to Hastings. "The pipe, it is missing, yet Simmons claims he fetched it. Another inconsistency. And the footsteps, someone was moving in the manor, unseen, perhaps carrying a candle to avoid detection." As the guests dispersed, Poirot lingered, his gaze falling on a small detail Hastings had overlooked, a single, tiny pearl, caught in the fringe of the library rug. "Mon Dieu," Poirot murmured, picking it up. "Miss Langley wears pearls, does she not? Yet she claims to have been in her room, far from the study or orchard." Hastings' eyes widened. "You think she's lying, but she's so timid she hardly seems capable of theft, let alone whatever happened to Sir Reginald." Poirot's smile was enigmatic. "The timid, Hastings, can surprise us most. The pearl, the wax, the stopped clock, these are the threads of a web, and at its center lies the truth. We must tread carefully, for the spider is watching." As evening approached, the manor seemed to close in around them, its walls heavy with secrets. Hastings felt the weight of each new clue, the pearl, the footsteps, the cryptic note, yet the puzzle remained maddeningly incomplete. Poirot, however, moved with quiet confidence, his mind weaving connections that Hastings could only hope to glimpse. Chapter 8. The emotional turning point. Evening shadows lengthened across Blackthorn Manor, casting the library in a somber glow as the guests reconvened, their faces etched with exhaustion and suspicion. The mounting clues, the bloodstained glove, the cigarette case, the auburn hair, the pearl, the stopped clock, and the cryptic blotting paper had frayed their nerves, and the absence of Sir Reginald weighed heavily on all. Captain Hastings, standing by the window, felt the oppressive atmosphere, his mind racing to make sense of the tangled web. Hercule Poirot, however, remained a beacon of calm, his eyes scanning the room with clinical precision. "Mesdames et messieurs," Poirot began, his voice cutting through the tense silence, "we have uncovered much, yet the heart of this mystery remains hidden. Tonight, I ask you to consider what drove Sir Reginald to write of debt and ruin, and who among you holds the key to his fate?" The question hung in the air, and for a moment, no one spoke. Then Miss Beatrice Langley, her hands trembling around her torn handkerchief, let out a choked sob. "I can't bear it any longer," she cried, her voice breaking the stillness. I know something, Mr. Poirot, but I swear I meant no harm." The room froze, all eyes on the young heiress, Lady Evelyn's lips parted in surprise, while Mrs. Wentworth's gaze sharpened. Colonel Rutherford muttered under his breath, and Julian Crane leaned forward, his usual charm replaced by wary curiosity. Dr. Baxter, clutching his brandy glass, looked as if he might choke. Poirot's expression softened, though his eyes remained piercing. Mademoiselle Langley, the truth. It is a burden only when unspoken. Tell us, s'il vous plaît, what you know. Beatrice's voice quavered as she spoke. Sir Reginald, he came to me a week ago, in London. He was desperate. He said he owed a great sum to a private lender, someone ruthless. He asked if I could lend him money, but I refused. I didn't have enough, and I was afraid. He looked so broken. Mr. Poirot, not like himself at all. Hastings, scribbling furiously, whispered to Poirot, that explains the blotting paper debt and ruin. But why didn't she tell us sooner? Poirot nodded slightly, his attention fixed on Beatrice. And this lender, Mademoiselle, did Sir Reginald name them? She shook her head, tears spilling. No, but he said they were dangerous, someone who knew his secrets. I thought it was just his pride talking. But now, with him gone, she dissolved into sobs, and Lady Evelyn moved to comfort her, though her own face was pale. Poirot turned to the others. This lender, they are a shadow in our puzzle. Who among you knew of Sir Reginald's financial troubles? Speak now, for silence serves only the guilty. Double quotes. Mrs. Wentworth's voice was cold. I told you. My business with him was settled. If he owed money, it wasn't to me. Dr. Baxter cleared his throat. I knew he was stretched thin. Expeditions aren't cheap, but a lender, that's news to me. Colonel Rutherford growled. Sounds like the sort of mess a man like Harwood would get into, always chasing glory. Julian Crane, his tone light but edged, said, Debts can make a man desperate, Mr. Poirot. Perhaps Sir Reginald staged his own disappearance to escape this lender. Poirot's eyes narrowed. A possibility, Monsieur Crane, but the blood in the orchard suggests otherwise. And you, Lady Evelyn, your brother confided in you. Nana. Lady Evelyn's hands clenched. He mentioned worries, yes, but nothing specific. Reginald was proud he wouldn't burden me with such things. The room fell silent again, the weight of Beatrice's confession settling over them. Poirot paced slowly, his hands clasped behind his back. Mademoiselle Langley's courage has illuminated a corner of this mystery. Sir Reginald was a man under pressure, perhaps driven to desperate acts, but the medallion's theft, the stopped clock, the blood, these suggest a plan not his own. Hastings, catching Poirot's glance, felt a spark of realization. You think someone used his debts against him, forced him to act, or silenced him? Poirot's nod was subtle. The mind, Hastings, it betrays itself in moments of weakness. Mademoiselle Langley has given us a truth, but others here hold pieces yet unspoken. As the guests dispersed, their faces haunted, Poirot drew Hastings aside. The pearl. Hastings, Miss Langley's necklace is missing a bead, is it not? And yet she claims to have been in her room, far from the library or orchard. We must examine her belongings. They slipped upstairs to Beatrice's room, where, with her reluctant permission, Poirot inspected her jewelry. The pearl necklace, laid out on the dresser, was indeed missing a single bead, its thread slightly frayed. This pearl, Poirot murmured, it was found in the library, not her room. How did it travel there, unless she did? Hastings frowned. But she's so fragile, Poirot. Could she really be involved? The fragile, mon ami, can be fierce when cornered, Poirot replied. And the lender this shadow may connect to another guest. We must learn more of Sir Reginald's dealings. As they returned to the library, Inspector Japp approached, his expression grim. Poirot, we found something in the stables, a rope, knotted oddly, with traces of blood. Looks like it was used to tie something, or someone. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Bon, the web tightens. Hastings, the rope, the pearl, the lender, these are not accidents. Someone has played a dangerous game, and Hercule Poirot will uncover their hand. The manor seemed to pulse with secrets, each revelation pulling Hastings deeper into the mystery. Beatrice's confession had cracked the facade, but Poirot's calm certainty hinted at a truth still buried, waiting to be unearthed. Chapter 9. The trap is set. Library of Blackthorn Manor, now a crucible of suspicion. hummed with tension as the evening deepened. The discovery of the blood-stained rope in the stables, coupled with Miss Langley's tearful confession about Sir Reginald's debts, had shifted the mood among the guests from unease to outright distrust. Captain Hastings, standing by the fireplace, felt the weight of the accumulating clues: the glove, the cigarette case, the auburn hair, the pearl, the stopped clock, and now the rope, each a piece in Hercule Poirot's intricate puzzle. Poirot himself, seated at the head of the room, exuded an air of quiet confidence, his eyes scanning the gathered faces with the precision of a watchmaker. Mesdames et messieurs, Poirot began, his voice steady and commanding, the hour grows late, and the truth, it draws near. Tonight, I propose a small experiment, a gathering to test the nerves of our culprit. Each of you has a secret, a motive, a moment unaccounted for. I will lay bare these threads, and we shall see who unravels. Inspector Japp, standing by the door, raised an eyebrow. You're stirring the pot, Poirot. Hope you know what you're doing. Poirot's smile was enigmatic. Always, mon ami Japp, the mind. It betrays itself under pressure. Observe. He began with a calculated provocation, holding up the blood-stained rope, its coarse fibers glinting in the firelight. This rope, found in the stables, bears traces of blood, perhaps Sir Reginald's. It suggests a struggle, a binding. Who among you has knowledge of knots or access to the stables? Colonel Rutherford's face reddened. I'm a military man. Poirot, knots are second nature. But I wasn't in the blasted stables. I told you, I was with Baxter. Dr. Baxter nodded vigorously. He was, I swear it. Besides, why would he need to tie anyone up? This is absurd. Poirot turned to Mrs. Wentworth, whose sapphire necklace seemed to gleam with defiance. Madam, you were in the conservatory, close to the stables. Did you hear anything? A horse, a footstep, a cry? Her lips thinned. I heard nothing, Mr. Poirot. The conservatory is quiet at night. Poirot's gaze shifted to Julian Crane, who lounged with forced nonchalance. Monsieur Crane, your cigarette case was found near the orchard, not far from the stables. A coincidence, perhaps, that you lost it there. Crane's smile tightened. As I said, it was stolen or misplaced. I'm not a stable hand, Mr. Poirot. Miss Langley, her eyes red from crying, clutched Lady Evelyn's arm. Please, stop. This. I told you about the lender. I don't know anything about ropes or stables. Lady Evelyn, her voice sharp, interjected. Mr. Poirot, you're distressing her. My brother is missing, and you're playing games with ropes and accusations. Poirot raised a hand, his tone soothing yet firm. Not games, Lady Evelyn, but method. The rope, the pearl, the stopped clock, these are not random. Someone here has woven a careful plan, but it frays at the edges. Let us consider the pearl. He held up the tiny bead, its luster catching the light. Found in the library, yet Miss Langley claims she was in her room. How did it come to be here? Beatrice gasped, her hand flying to her necklace. I don't know. I didn't notice it missing until you pointed it out. Poirot's eyes softened, but his voice held a challenge. And the lender? Mademoiselle, did Sir Reginald hint at their identity? A name, a detail, anything? She shook her head, trembling. He only said they were ruthless. Someone who knew too much. I thought it might be someone close to him. The room fell silent, the implication hanging heavy. Hastings, whispering to Poirot, said, She's pointing at one of us. But who? Lady Evelyn, Mrs. Wentworth. Poirot nodded slightly, then turned to Simmons, the valet, who stood nervously at the edge. Monsieur Simmons, the stopped clock 12:02 a.m. You returned at 12:10. Yet the clock suggests the crime occurred earlier. And the pipe you fetched, where is it? Simmons paled, his hands twisting. I left it in the smoking room. As I said, the clock, I didn't touch it, sir. Poirot's gaze was unrelenting. And the footsteps you heard in the corridor, whose were they? You looked, yet saw no one. Were you truly alone? Simmons stammered, his eyes darting to Lady Evelyn, then away. I thought it was the wind, sir. I swear, I saw nothing. Poirot clapped his hands, startling the room. Bon, the pressure, it reveals the cracks. Tomorrow, we shall reconvene, and I will present a theory, a reconstruction of the night's events. I advise you all to reflect on your truths, for Hercule Poirot sees more than you think. As the guests dispersed, their faces a mix of fear and defiance, Japp pulled Poirot aside. "You're pushing them hard, Poirot. Think one of them will break." Poirot's smile was serene. "They are already breaking, Inspector. The rope, it is a bold clue, but its blood is too perfect, too staged. The true crime lies elsewhere. And tomorrow we shall spring the trap." Hastings, following Poirot to the study, felt his pulse quicken. "You're close, aren't you? You know who did it?" Poirot's eyes twinkled. "The little gray cells." "Hastings, they are aligning the pieces. The lender, the stopped clock, the pearl, these are the keys. But we must wait, for the culprit expects us to stumble. Tomorrow we shall not." As night fell over Blackthorn Manor, the air grew heavier, the silence fraught with anticipation. Hastings knew Poirot was closing in, but the truth remained just out of reach, hidden in the shadows of deceit. Chapter 10. The revealed great hall of Blackthorn Manor was ablaze with candlelight, the chandelier casting flickering shadows across the assembled guests. The air was thick with anticipation, the events of the past 2 days, the missing medallion, Sir Reginald's disappearance, the blood in the orchard, the rope, the pearl having drawn the noose of suspicion ever tighter. Hercule Poirot stood at the center of the room, his small frame commanding, his mustache immaculate, his green eyes gleaming with the certainty of truth revealed. Captain Hastings, seated near Inspector Japp, felt his heart race, knowing Poirot was about to unveil the solution to the mystery that had gripped them all. "Mesdames et messieurs," Poirot began, his voice clear and resonant, "we have gathered to untangle the web of deceit spun in this manner. A medallion stolen, a man vanished, blood spilled. These are not accidents, but the work of a mind both cunning and desperate. Tonight, Hercule Poirot will lay bare the truth, step by step, using the little gray cells." The guests sat rigid, Lady Evelyn, her auburn hair tightly pinned, Dr. Baxter, clutching his handkerchief, Mrs. Wentworth, her sapphire necklace glinting coldly, Colonel Rutherford, his cane gripped tightly, Julian Crane, his smile absent, Miss Langley, her hands trembling, and Simmons, the valet, pale and shrinking. At the edge, Poirot paced slowly, his hands clasped behind his back. "Let us begin with the facts." At 11:50 p.m., Sir Reginald locked the medallion in its case, entrusted the key to Simmons, and remained in his study. By 12:10 a.m., Simmons returned to find the study in disarray, the safe open, the medallion gone, and Sir Reginald missing. "A scream, Lady Evelyn's alerted us. In the orchard, we found blood, a torn scrap of Sir Reginald's jacket, and an auburn hair. In the conservatory, a blood-stained glove with Colonel Rutherford's initials. In the shrubbery, Mr. Crane's cigarette case. In the library, a pearl from Miss Langley's necklace. In the study, a French cigarette paper, a speck of candle wax, and a blotting paper hinting at debt and ruin. And in the stables, a blood-stained rope, a puzzle none, but one with a pattern." Japp leaned forward, his pipe unlit. "Get to it, Poirot. Who's the culprit?" Poirot raised a hand. "Patience, Inspector. First, the red herrings, the glove, so conveniently marked with Colonel Rutherford's initials, was too obvious place to mislead. The cigarette case, dropped in the shrubbery, was not lost days ago as Monsieur Crane claimed, but recently, perhaps to suggest his presence in the orchard. The pearl from Mademoiselle Langley's necklace appeared in the library, yet she swore she was in her room. These clues, they scream guilt, but they are distractions, planted by a hand that knows our suspicions." He turned to the stopped clock. "The clock in the study, stopped at 12:02 a.m., contradicts Simmons' timeline of returning at 12:10. Someone tampered with it to obscure the true time of the crime. And the candle wax, found in the study and the servant's alcove, suggests movement in darkness, avoiding electric lights. Why? To act unseen." Poirot's gaze swept the room. "Now, the motive." Miss Langley revealed Sir Reginald's debts to a ruthless lender, a secret that drove him to desperation. The blotting paper, must be told, debt, ruin, confirms this. But who was this lender, and how does it connect to the medallion? He paused, letting the tension build. "Let us reconstruct." Sir Reginald, burdened by debt, planned to auction the medallion to save himself. But someone saw opportunity not just to steal the medallion, but to silence him. This person knew his habits, his study, his valet's routines. They stole the case's key from Simmons, opened the safe, and took the medallion. But Sir Reginald interrupted them, leading to a struggle. The blood in the orchard, the torn jacket, the auburn hair, these suggest a confrontation, but not a murder. The blood was too little for a fatal wound, and no body was found. Why? Because Sir Reginald is not dead. A gasp rippled through the room. Lady Evelyn's hand flew to her mouth. Not dead, but the blood, the jacket. Poirot's eyes gleamed. A deception, madam. Sir Reginald staged his disappearance. With help, the blood, likely animal blood from the stables, was placed to suggest foul play. The jacket torn and left deliberately. The auburn hair yours. Lady Evelyn, taken from your brush to mislead. U.S. Lady Evelyn paled. You accuse me, not alone, Poirot said. You acted with Sir Reginald. Your brother, he was desperate, facing ruin. You devised a plan, steal the medallion, stage his disappearance, and sell the artifact secretly to pay his debts. The lender, Mrs. Wentworth, whose business disagreement was a loan Sir Reginald could not repay, knew too much, and you feared her. Mrs. Wentworth's eyes narrowed. Preposterous. I had no part in this. None, madam. But you were the catalyst, Poirot said. Your pressure drove Sir Reginald to act, Lady Evelyn. You took the key from Simmons during his brief absence, entered the study, and removed the medallion. Sir Reginald waited in the orchard, where you staged the scene. Blood, jacket, hair. The stopped clock was your error, meant to confuse the timeline, but revealing your haste. He turned to the others. The glove, the cigarette case, the pearl, these were distractions, planted by Lady Evelyn to muddy the waters. Colonel Rutherford's glove, taken from his room. Mr. Crane's case, slipped from his pocket. Miss Langley's pearl, plucked from her necklace during a moment of chaos. And the French cigarette paper, a touch of flair, from Lady Evelyn's own collection, a habit she conceals. Lady Evelyn stood, trembling. This is absurd. You have no proof. Poirot's voice was calm. The proof, madam, is in the orchard. Sir Reginald hides there, in the old gardener's shed, waiting for the storm to pass. The scrape mark on the wall, the disturbed earth, they mark his path. And the candle wax, you used it to navigate the dark, avoiding detection. Japp sprang to his feet. The shed. Let's search it. The guests followed, a tense procession to the orchard, where the shed stood hidden among the trees. Japp kicked open the door, revealing Sir Reginald, disheveled but alive, clutching the medallion. Lady Evelyn cried out, collapsing in tears. Poirot turned to her. You acted out of love, madam, but deception is a dangerous game. Sir Reginald, you will explain to the police. The medallion, it returns to its rightful place. As Japp led Sir Reginald away, Hastings stared at Poirot, awestruck. You knew all along, didn't you? Poirot smiled. The little gray cells, Hastings, they see what others overlook. Chapter 11. The reflection. That morning after the dramatic revelation in Blackthorn Manor's orchard, a quiet calm settled over the great hall, though it was tinged with the melancholy of truth uncovered. The guests, save for Sir Reginald and Lady Evelyn, who were now in police custody, sat subdued, their faces reflecting a mix of relief and unease. The Harwood medallion, recovered from the gardener's shed, lay once more on its velvet cloth, its golden surface gleaming under the chandelier as if untouched by the chaos it had inspired. Captain Hastings, seated near the fireplace, felt a strange emptiness, the thrill of the chase replaced by the sobering reality of human frailty. Hercule Poirot, immaculate as ever, stood before the group, his hands clasped, his expression serene, yet tinged with a philosopher's gravity. Ms. Amos, Poirot began, his voice soft but resonant. The affair of the stolen medallion is concluded, yet it leaves us with lessons of the heart and mind. Hercule Poirot does not solve mysteries for triumph alone, but to restore order, to illuminate the truth hidden in the shadows of deceit. Inspector Japp, nursing a cup of tea, nodded gruffly. You've done it again, Poirot. Pulled the rabbit out of the hat, but I'll be dashed if I know how you saw through it all. Poirot's lips curved into a faint smile. The little gray cells, Inspector, they observe, they connect, they reason. Let us reflect on the path to this truth. He paced slowly, his gaze distant. From the beginning, the clues were to perfect the glove, the cigarette case, the pearl, all pointing to different hands, yet none fitting the crime. The stopped clock at 12:02 a.m., contradicting Simmons' timeline, suggested a deliberate act to obscure the hour of the theft. The candle wax, found in the study and the alcove, hinted at movement in darkness, a precaution against detection. And the blotting paper, debt and ruin, revealed Sir Reginald's desperation, a motive that drove the entire charade. Hastings, his notebook open, interjected, "But how did you know Sir Reginald wasn't dead? The blood, the jacket, it all seemed so convincing." Poirot turned to him, his eyes twinkling. The blood, Hastings, was too little for a fatal wound, and its placement in the orchard, alongside the carefully torn jacket and auburn hair, suggested a stage set for our benefit. No body was found, and the scrape mark on the wall, the disturbed earth, they pointed to a living man hiding, not a corpse disposed of. Sir Reginald, with Lady Evelyn's aid, sought to escape his debts by faking his disappearance, selling the medallion secretly to appease his lender. Dr. Baxter, his jowls quivering, shook his head. But why drag us into it? All those planted clues, Rutherford's glove, Crane's case, Miss Langley's pearl. Poirot nodded. A clever distraction, Doctor. Lady Evelyn, knowing suspicion would fall on her as Sir Reginald's sister, sowed confusion by implicating others. The glove, taken from Colonel Rutherford's room. The cigarette case, slipped from Monsieur Crane's pocket. The pearl, plucked from Mademoiselle Langley's necklace during a moment of chaos. And the French cigarette paper, a touch of her own, to deepen the mystery. She underestimated Hercule Poirot, who sees the pattern beneath the chaos. Mrs. Wentworth, her sapphire necklace now seeming a cold ornament, spoke sharply. "And my role, you implied I was the lender, Mr. Poirot." Poirot's tone was gentle but firm. "Madam, your business disagreement with Sir Reginald was indeed a loan, one he could not repay. Your presence pressured him, but you were not the architect of this crime. Your silence, however, protected your own interests." She looked away, her lips tight, offering no denial. Miss Langley, her voice soft, said, "I feel so foolish, Mr. Poirot. I believed in the curse, and all along, it was just human greed." Poirot's gaze softened. "Mademoiselle, the human heart is the true mystery. Fear of a curse is but fear of our own weaknesses. You were brave to speak of Sir Reginald's plea for help. It was the key that unlocked the truth." Colonel Rutherford, his gruff demeanor softened, muttered, "Damned clever, Poirot. You've got a mind like a steel trap." Julian Crane, his charm returning, raised a glass to Poirot. "Then who sees what we cannot?" Poirot bowed slightly, his humility tempered by pride. "The little gray cells. They serve only to uncover what is already there. The truth. It is not hidden. It is merely ignored." As the guests dispersed, some to pack, others to reflect, Poirot drew Hastings aside. "Mon ami, this case reminds us that desperation can twist even the noblest heart. Sir Reginald and Lady Evelyn acted out of fear, but their deception harmed more than it saved. We must pity as well as judge." Hastings nodded, though his mind lingered on the drama of the night before. "You always see the human side, Poirot, even in crime." Poirot's smile was wistful. "Because, Hastings, it is the human side that creates the crime. Now, let us depart. Blackthorn Manor has no more secrets for Hercule Poirot." As they stepped into the crisp morning air, the manor's ivy-clad walls loomed behind them, a silent witness to the unraveling of its mystery. Hastings felt a pang of nostalgia for the thrill of the chase, but Poirot, his step light, seemed already to look toward the next puzzle, his little gray cells ever restless. Chapter 12. Echoes of Deception. The morning mist had returned to Blackthorn Manor, cloaking the estate in a ghostly shroud as Captain Hastings and Hercule Poirot prepared to depart. The resolution of the medallion theft and Sir Reginald's staged disappearance had left the manor subdued, its opulent halls now seeming hollow, as if the very walls mourned the betrayal they had witnessed. The guests, save for Sir Reginald and Lady Evelyn, who remained with Inspector Japp for further questioning, were packing their belongings, eager to leave the tainted grandeur behind. Yet Poirot, ever meticulous, lingered in the library, his eyes scanning the shelves as if seeking one final clue. "Hastings," Poirot said, his voice low. "The case is closed, yet the little gray cells, they are not entirely at rest. There is a shadow, a question unanswered, that troubles me." Hastings, adjusting his hat, frowned. "Unanswered?" "Poirot, you found Sir Reginald, recovered the medallion, and exposed Lady Evelyn's scheme. What's left to question?" Poirot's fingers brushed the spine of a dusty volume. "The lender. Mon ami," Mrs. Wentworth admitted to a loan, but her reticence suggests more. "And the French cigarette paper, so carefully placed, was it truly Lady Evelyn's? Or did another hand guide its placement?" Before Hastings could respond, the butler, Mr. Grayson, approached, his face pale. "Mr. Poirot, sir, there's something. You should see a letter found in Sir Reginald's study, hidden beneath a floorboard. It was missed in the initial search." Poirot's eyes gleamed with renewed interest. "Bon, lead us." Monsieur Grayson. The study, still bearing the marks of the staged struggle, felt colder now, its disarray a silent testament to the deception. Grayson pried up a loose floorboard near the desk, revealing a folded letter, its edges yellowed but intact. Poirot unfolded it with care, his expression growing grave as he read aloud, "Reginald, you have until the auction to repay the £20,000, or I shall expose your indiscretions to the world. Do not test my patience." C.W. Hastings' eyes widened. C.W. Clara Wentworth. So she was the lender, and more than she admitted. But indiscretions, what does that mean? Poirot's gaze was distant. Not merely debts, Hastings, but secrets personal, perhaps shameful. Mrs. Wentworth held a sword over Sir Reginald's head, one sharper than money. "We must speak with her again." They found Mrs. Wentworth in the drawing room, her sapphire necklace catching the dim light as she packed her valise. Her face, usually a mask of composure, betrayed a flicker of unease as Poirot approached, holding the letter. "Madame Wentworth," Poirot said, his tone polite but unyielding, "this letter, found hidden in Sir Reginald's study, suggests you knew more than you revealed. What indiscretions did you threaten to expose?" Her hands stilled, and for a moment, silence hung heavy. Then, with a sigh, she straightened, her eyes meeting Poirot's. "Very well, Mr. Poirot. I lent Sir Reginald money, £20,000, a sum he squandered on reckless ventures. But I also knew of his dalliances, an affair, years ago, with a diplomat's wife. It would have ruined his reputation if exposed. I used it to ensure repayment." Hastings gasped. "Blackmail. You drove him to this desperate scheme." Mrs. Wentworth's lips thinned. "I sought only what was owed. I had no part in his disappearance or the theft. That was his doing and Evelyn's." Poirot nodded slowly. "And the French cigarette paper, madam, you smoke, do you not? A rare brand, perhaps." Her eyes narrowed. "I smoke, yes, but not French cigarettes. If you found such a paper, it was not mine." Poirot's smile was enigmatic. "Perhaps not. But your silence, it allowed the deception to flourish. You knew Sir Reginald's desperation, yet said nothing until pressed." She looked away, her composure cracking. "I wanted my money, not his life. I regret nothing." As they left her, Hastings whispered, "Do you believe her, Poirot, about the cigarette paper?" Poirot's expression was thoughtful. "She speaks truth, I think, about her role, but the paper, it troubles me still. Its presence was no accident, yet Lady Evelyn's confession claimed it as her own. Was she protecting another, or was it a mistake?" They returned to the library, where Japp awaited, his face grim. "Poirot, Sir Reginald's talking. He confirms Evelyn's role, but swears no one else was involved. Says the cigarette paper was hers, from a trip to Paris last year." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "And yet, the paper was fresh, not aged. The little gray cells, they protest. But for now, the case is closed. The medallion is safe, Sir Reginald, and Lady Evelyn will face justice, and Mrs. Wentworth's secret is exposed." Hastings felt a pang of unease. "You're not satisfied, are you? There's something more." Poirot's smile was wistful. "Always, Hastings, there's more to the human heart. But for now, we leave Blackthorn Manor to its ghosts. The truth, it has been served, if not fully illuminated." As they stepped into the waiting motor car, The manor loomed behind them, its secrets partially unveiled, but still whispering in the fog. Hastings knew Poirot's mind would linger on the unanswered question, but for now, the detective's work was done. Chapter 13. A lingering doubt. The motorcar rumbled away from Blackthorn Manor, its wheels crunching on the gravel drive as the fog began to thin, revealing the stark outlines of the Shropshire hills. Captain Hastings, seated beside Hercule Poirot, felt a restless unease, despite the case's apparent resolution. Sir Reginald and Lady Evelyn were in custody, the Harwood medallion was secured, and Mrs. Wentworth's role as the lender had been exposed. Yet Poirot's silence, his fingers drumming lightly on his cane, suggested the little gray cells were far from settled. "Hastings," Poirot said at last, his voice low against the hum of the engine, "the affair of the medallion is resolved. Yet a single thread remains loose. The French cigarette paper. Its presence nags at me. Lady Evelyn claimed it as her own, yet Mrs. Wentworth denies smoking such a brand. And the paper was fresh, not aged from a Parisian journey. There is a discrepancy, mon ami, and Hercule Poirot does not like discrepancies." Hastings frowned, adjusting his scarf against the chill. "But Sir Reginald confirmed Evelyn's story, didn't he? And the other clues, the glove, the cigarette case, the pearl, all pointed to her scheme. Could it be a simple mistake?" Poirot's eyes gleamed. "A mistake, perhaps, but in a crime so carefully staged, even a mistake is revealing. Let us consider, if the paper was not Lady Evelyn's, nor Mrs. Wentworth's, then whose? And why place it in the study, where it would draw attention?" They arrived at the village inn, where they would stay until the police finalized their inquiries. The inn's cozy parlor, with its crackling fire, offered a stark contrast to the manor's oppressive grandeur. As they settled with tea, Poirot produced his notebook, flipping to a page of meticulous notes. "We must review the players, Hastings. Each had a role, but one may have played a double game." He began to recount the alibis, his pencil tapping. The page, Colonel Rutherford and Dr. Baxter were in the drawing room. Their stories aligned, but unverified for a brief moment when Baxter left for the cloakroom. Mr. Crane was alone in the billiard room, his cigarette case conveniently lost. Miss Langley was in her room, yet her pearl appeared in the library. Simmons heard footsteps, but saw no one, and Mrs. Wentworth, in the conservatory, claims ignorance of the stables nearby. One of these threads does not fit. Hastings leaned forward. "You suspect someone else was involved, a second conspirator, perhaps manipulating the scene?" Poirot nodded. "Possible, mon ami. The cigarette paper suggests a hand we have not yet seen. Let us return to Mr. Julian Crane. His charm, it is a mask, and his cigarette case, found near the orchard too. Convenient, yet not part of Lady Evelyn's plan, for she did not confess to planting it." A knock at the door interrupted them. Inspector Japp entered, his face flushed from the cold. "Poirot, you'll want to hear this. We've had a word with the groundskeeper. He says he saw a figure near the stables the night of the theft. Not Sir Reginald, but someone slighter, moving quickly. Couldn't make out the face, but he swears it wasn't a woman." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "A man, then. And the stables where the blood-stained rope was found. This figure they may connect to our cigarette paper. Inspector, can you summon Mr. Crane to the inn? I have questions." Japp nodded, dispatching a constable. Within the hour, Julian Crane arrived, his usual nonchalance tinged with wariness. "Mr. Poirot, I thought we were done. What's this about?" Poirot's tone was polite but pointed. "Monsieur Crane, your cigarette case was found near the orchard, yet you claim it was lost days ago. A groundskeeper saw a man near the stables that night's light. Quick, not unlike yourself. And the French cigarette paper, did you, perhaps, bring such a brand from your travels?" Crane's smile faltered. "I told you, I smoke English cigarettes, and I was in the billiard room, not the stables. You're fishing, Mr. Poirot." Poirot leaned forward, his gaze piercing. "Fishing, perhaps, but for the truth. Your charm, it conceals much, monsieur. Were you working with Sir Reginald, or perhaps against him? Did you know of his debts, his indiscretions?" Crane's eyes flickered, but he held firm. "I'm a dealer, not a conspirator. I wanted the medallion for profit, nothing more. If someone used my cigarette case, They did it to frame me." Poirot dismissed him with a nod, but as Crane left, he turned to Hastings. "He knows more, Hastings, but he is clever. The groundskeeper's sighting it points to a man, and Crane's alibi is weak. We must search his belongings before he departs." With Japp's assistance, they obtained permission to inspect Crane's room at the manor. There, tucked in a hidden pocket of his valise, they found a single French cigarette, its paper matching the one from the study. Poirot's smile was triumphant. The thread, Hastings, it begins to tighten. Crane was in the study, or near it. But why? To aid Lady Evelyn, or to pursue his own ends? As night fell, the inn's fire cast long shadows, mirroring the doubts still clouding Poirot's mind. The case was closed, yet this new clue suggested a deeper layer, one that might yet unravel. Hastings felt the familiar thrill of Poirot's relentless pursuit, knowing the detective would not rest until every shadow was dispelled. Chapter 14. The Hidden Hand. The village inn's parlor, with its low ceiling and crackling fire, felt like a sanctuary from the lingering shadows of Blackthorn Manor. Yet Hercule Poirot's mind was far from at ease. The discovery of the French cigarette in Julian Crane's valise had reignited his suspicions, casting a new light on the already intricate web of the Medallion theft. Captain Hastings, sipping tea to ward off the evening chill, watched his friend pace, the faint tap of Poirot's cane on the floorboards marking the rhythm of his thoughts. "Hastings," Poirot said, pausing by the window to gaze into the gathering dusk, "the cigarette. It is no mere coincidence. Monsieur Crane lied about his habits, and the groundskeeper's sighting places a man's light. Quick near the stables, the little gray cells, they whisper of a hidden hand, one that played a role we have not yet fully seen." Hastings sat down his cup, his brow furrowed. "You think Crane was involved beyond being a convenient scapegoat. But Lady Evelyn and Sir Reginald confessed. How could he fit in?" Poirot's eyes gleamed. "A conspiracy, mon ami, can have more than one architect. Lady Evelyn and Sir Reginald planned the theft and disappearance, but Crane his presence in the study, his cigarette paper suggests he knew more than he claims. Was he an opportunist, seizing the moment, or a partner with his own agenda? Inspector Japp, who had joined them after overseeing the manor's final searches, rubbed his chin. "Crane's a slippery one, I'll grant you, but we've got Sir Reginald and Lady Evelyn dead to rights. Why complicate things?" Poirot's smile was patient. "Because, Inspector, the truth is never complicated when it is complete. Let us return to the manor one last time. I wish to examine the stables and speak with the groundskeeper again." The trio arrived at Blackthorn Manor as twilight deepened, the estate's silhouette looming against the fading light. The stables, a low stone building behind the orchard, smelled of hay and leather, their shadows heavy with secrets. The groundskeeper, a weathered man named Harris, repeated his account, saw a figure, slight-like, move in quick near the stables round midnight. Thought it was odd, but with the fog, I couldn't be sure. Not Sir Reginald, though too nimble. Poirot nodded, his eyes scanning the stable floor. Near a pile of straw, he spotted a faint glint, a tiny metal button, engraved with a subtle J.C. Mon Dieu. He murmured, holding it up. Another of Monsieur Crane's possessions, so carelessly left behind. Yet this button, it is from a waistcoat, not a coat worn indoors, perhaps in the study. Hastings' eyes widened. So Crane was in the study, not just the billiard room. But why? To steal the medallion himself. Poirot's gaze was distant. Perhaps Hastings. He saw an opportunity. Sir Reginald's plan was known to him. Crane is a dealer, accustomed to secrets. He may have entered the study, intending to take the medallion before Lady Evelyn could, leaving the cigarette paper as a false clue to implicate another. They returned to the inn, where Crane had been detained for further questioning. Confronted with the button and cigarette, his charm cracked, his face paling. "All right, Mr. Poirot," he said, his voice low. "I was in the study, just before midnight. I knew Sir Reginald was in trouble. Word gets around in my circles. I thought I could borrow the medallion, sell it quietly, and make a profit. But when I got there, the safe was already open, and Sir Reginald was gone. I dropped the cigarette paper in my haste. I swear I didn't touch him." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "And the button, monsieur, in the stables. Crane swallowed. I went to the stables after, to hide, when I heard footsteps. I thought someone saw me. I didn't know about the rope or blood until later. Jap crossed his arms. That's a confession of intent. Crane, you're in deep now. Poirot raised a hand. Not so fast, Inspector. Monsieur Crane is guilty of opportunism, but not of the theft or Sir Reginald's staging. His actions, they were a shadow play, overlapping with Lady Evelyn's plan. The cigarette paper was his mistake, meant to mislead, but revealing his presence. Hastings whispered, "So he's not the mastermind, just a greedy bystander." "Precisement," Poirot said. The true crime was Sir Reginald's and Lady Evelyn's, driven by Mrs. Wentworth's pressure. Crane's greed added confusion, but not motive. The case, it is now truly closed. As Jap led Crane away for questioning, Poirot turned to Hastings, his expression weary but satisfied. The human heart, Hastings, it seeks profit, love, survival, and in doing so, weaves chaos. Crane's ambition was his undoing, but it was the desperation of Sir Reginald and Lady Evelyn that set the stage. The inn's fire flickered, casting long shadows as Hastings marveled at Poirot's ability to unravel even the smallest threads. Blackthorn Manor's secrets were laid bare, but the echoes of deception lingered, a reminder of the fragility beneath the manor's grandeur. Chapter 15. The final farewell. Sun broke through the morning mist, bathing the village in a soft golden light as Captain Hastings and Hercule Poirot prepared to depart for London. The events at Blackthorn Manor, the theft of the Harwood, Medallion, Sir Reginald's staged disappearance, Lady Evelyn's complicity, and Julian Crane's opportunistic interference had been resolved. Yet the air carried a lingering weight of human frailty. The inn's parlor, with its worn armchairs and crackling fire, felt like a haven after the manor's oppressive grandeur. Poirot, his valise packed with meticulous care, adjusted his hat, his green eyes reflective as he gazed out the window. "Hastings," Poirot said, his voice soft yet resonant, "the case of the stolen medallion, it is a mirror to the soul. Greed, desperation, loyalty, these are the forces that drive men and women to deceive, even themselves." Hastings, folding his newspaper, nodded. "It's a rum business, Poirot. Sir Reginald and Lady Evelyn, driven by debt and fear, nearly pulled it off, and Crane, his greed almost muddied the waters completely. How do you always see through the chaos?" Poirot's smile was wistful. "The little gray cells, mon ami. They seek order where others see only confusion. Each clue, the stopped clock, the candle wax, the French cigarette paper. The blood-stained rope was a note in a symphony of deceit. To hear the melody, one must listen with care." Inspector Jap joined them, his face weary but satisfied. "Well, Poirot, you've tied it up neatly. Sir Reginald and Lady Evelyn are facing charges for theft and fraud. Crane's in for attempted theft, though he's swearing he's just a misunderstood businessman. Mrs. Wentworth's off the hook, legally, but her reputation's taken a hit." Poirot nodded. Madame Wentworth's silence, it was her shield, but also her burden. She drove Sir Reginald to desperation, yet her own heart remains unexamined. "Such is the way of secrets, Inspector." Jap chuckled. "You're too philosophical. For me, Poirot, I'm just glad we got the medallion back and no one's dead. That's a win in my book." Poirot's gaze turned to the window, where the Shropshire hills rolled gently into the distance. A win, perhaps, but a reminder, too. The medallion, it was not merely gold, but a symbol of ambition. Sir Reginald sought to save his name, Lady Evelyn her brother, Crane his fortune. Yet each lost more than they gained. Hastings, gathering his coat, said, "And Miss Langley?" "Poor girl, caught up in the cursed nonsense, only to find it was all too human." Poirot's expression softened. "Mademoiselle Langley's fear was her truth, Hastings. She saw shadows where there were only men. Her courage in speaking of Sir Reginald's plea was the spark that lit our path." As they stepped outside, the motor car waiting to take them to the station, Poirot paused, his eyes lingering on Blackthorn Manor's distant silhouette. "This manor, it will carry its scars, Hastings. The blood in the orchard, the lies in the library, they are echoes of a moment when trust was broken. Yet order is restored, and that is the work of Hercule Poirot." The car rolled through the village, past hedgerows and stone walls, as Hastings reflected on the case. The clues: the glove, the cigarette case, the pearl, the rope. The stopped clock had seemed so disparate, yet Poirot had woven them into a coherent tale. Crane's hidden role, exposed by the French cigarette and the button, had added a final twist, a reminder that even in resolution, human motives could surprise. "Poirot," Hastings said, breaking the silence, "do you ever tire of it? The lies, the betrayals." Poirot's smile was serene. "Never, mon ami, for in each lie, there is a truth seeking to be free, and in each betrayal, a chance to restore balance. The little gray cells, they thrive on such challenges as the..." Train's whistle sounded in the distance. Hastings felt a familiar admiration for his friend's unyielding pursuit of truth. Blackthorn Manor faded behind them, its secrets laid bare. But Poirot's quiet certainty promised that wherever the next mystery rose, he would meet it with the same relentless clarity. The case of the stolen medallion was closed, and the world, for now, was set right.